say we're saving the best for last, and we certainly are. We have Jeff Bile with SafeAna by Sticker Control, and he will go into all of that kind of technology when he is up, and he is our first presenter. And then Michelle Miller is a physical therapist, and she will be discussing some of the things she does. Speaking of my dog, there you go. I wasn't quick enough. And with her, I'm so sorry. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it. Just bring it right over to Jeff Bile because my post office man was early. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Tanya. And I'll share my screen real quickly. I can work this, but I'm not fast. I'll put it that way. So as Tanya said, oh, my computer just froze.
Yeah, as I say, Jeff, we're not seeing really anything quite yet.
Yeah, my computer froze. Shoot.
Do you want a couple more minutes, or should we see if Michelle can get us started, or how do you feel, Jeff?
Oh, sorry about that.
Nope,
sorry, my computer froze there momentarily. So let me just make sure can you see that the presentation?
We can see everything, Jeff. It's good.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. You've got a dog. I've got a laptop that's tries to make trouble. But as Tanya said, I'm Jeff Bile. I'm the CEO and one of the two co-founders of a company called Sticker Control. And here to talk about a product called SafeAna. And Sticker Control is a software company we founded in early 2018. And my co-founder is a guy I worked with on a prior startup. He's based in Bilbao, Spain. And our core product focuses on manufacturers and distributors and helping them automate manual processes, get rid of spreadsheets and paper-based systems, and capture data and then do something use that data to optimize their operations in a lot of ways. And I actually practiced this pitch with Shelly. I can't remember her last name right offhand, but she presented on Wednesday. And at this point in the presentation, she sort of had a frowny face like, well, I think maybe you're on the wrong Zoom link or something. But what happened was a while ago, I was going to a couple different networking events. And by chance, I spoke with some people who were in the senior care, senior living space and talking about what we do for manufacturers and distributors. And their response was pretty uniform, which was that we'd love to have some technology like this. Mainly, we just love to have some technology that would help us make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And if they're not, let somebody know so that we can do something about it. So a small problem doesn't become a big problem. One of the guys in particular operated a skilled nursing facility, and he said, I'd love to get through a weekend without getting a call from a family who's mad because they're paying thousands of dollars a month and they come in and mom's on the floor and she fell. They don't know how long she's been there, or she spilled water on herself. And it's just not what they're expecting. It's not the level of service that they expect, given the money that they're paying. And it's not the level of service that the management wanted to provide. And that also jived with my personal experience. And I'll have to say that, if this business is successful, I'll go back and rewrite history and say I had this great vision and this was our plan all along, but that would be a bit of a lie. But it did jive with my personal experience. My dad had dementia. And I know that it was extremely stressful for my mom, both before the diagnosis and then after, making sure that if she was going to be out, that he was getting the care that he was supposed to get. If she was going to be gone for 5 or 6 hours doing something, she's a very active person, is that person who's supposed to come in at 10 o'clock and help him take his medicine or do whatever they're supposed to do, did that person show up? Did they do what they're supposed to do? And so she was constantly calling around, and I'm sure that was very stressful for her. And I'm sure she was projecting that stress onto the care providers as well. And so that was kind of a no-win situation. And so it was clear that there's some tools that are needed in this space, whether it's a skilled nursing facility, assisted living, or really importantly, people living independently. And I think that the need for those tools is only going to grow. I mean, if you look at US population, I think in 2030, for the first time in a long, long time, there are going to be more people aged 80 and over than there are people aged 18 and under. And of the people that require help with their activities of daily living, half of them rely upon family members, basically unpaid care. And in 2000, I think it was 2016, the ratio of potential family care providers to seniors was 7-to-1. And by 2030, which seems like a long time away, but it's actually only 8 or 9 years from now, that ratio will be down to 4-to-1. And so there's going to be a lot of demand for care providers. At the same time, even now we're having shortage of care providers, and that's going to get worse. And there's also, as we've seen, a couple of different speakers have talked about the fact that understandably seniors want to remain living independently or living in their homes for as long as possible, much higher quality of living. And so that's, there's actually a study that was just released where boomers said that they'd rather, 60% said they'd rather die than living in a nursing home. Now, I think that's probably easy to say if you're 60 years old and that's something way out in the future, but that does show a mindset. And so the other part of the whole equation is that these assisted living communities and skilled nursing homes or those types of places are really expensive. And so not only do you want to live in your home longer because it's a higher quality of life, but there's a lot of financial pressure on many, many people because those communities are expensive. And so what we're trying to do is take our technology and really allow people to live independently or live in lesser care environments for as long as possible, but to do that as safely as possible. So it's not just this is my only alternative, but this is the alternative I want, and I can do this safely and without pushing a lot of stress onto family members. And so we're just making sure that the high quality care that you want and deserve is delivered on time every time. And if something doesn't happen, then let somebody know so they can take remedial action so a small problem doesn't get to be big. And it can be as simple as a reminder saying you're supposed to take your medicine at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. and that type of stuff, but then also making sure that you do it. And if you don't, then somebody gets a message saying, mom, dad, whatever, you haven't taken your medicine, please make sure you do that. That communication, that real-time communication is a really key part of it because you do want to be engaged with your family, but you don't want it to be out of a sense of obligation where they're stressed, like I'm going to drop off the kids, I've got to go see mom before I go to work, that type of stress. Nobody really wants that. And so that's what we're trying to address. So the way we do that is we allow you to set up here all kinds of things that I want to make sure happen. I take my medicine, I lock the front and back door every night, empty the dishwasher, whatever it is that's important to you or important to the care provider, all that stuff is scheduled. And we're just a software company. We use off the shelf, what they call NFC tags, so near field communication tags. And these are the things that are in the little black boxes. So when you go into a coffee shop or a grocery store and somebody pays with their phone, by tapping the phone against the little black box, there's an NFC tag in that black box. And it just registers, yeah, I was here. And it tells you, I was here at 10 o'clock, I was here at 12:13. That's what my clock says right now. So it timestamps, this is what happened at this point. So you basically would set up a bunch of physical checkpoints in your house. I want to make sure that mom's up and about. So take her phone, just tap it by the refrigerator or by the stove or by the coffee maker so that she's up and about, or in the bathroom or the medicine cabinet, those types of things, and make sure they happen. And an NFC tag is a really inexpensive piece of technology. That's a nickel on the screen there, just for reference. So it's about the size of a Band-Aid. They cost about 20 cents. They have a little adhesive. And so it's like putting a little Band-Aid wherever you want it to be, the bathroom, the medicine cabinet, the refrigerator, the front door, mailbox, whatever it is that you want, and set up events that are triggered by those locations and say, okay, if you have a care provider that's supposed to come in at 10 o'clock, that care provider taps their phone by the front door and said, I'm here, it's 10:02. And I stayed for half an hour, which is a reasonable amount of time for what you're supposed to do. Or I stayed for 5 minutes, which is not a reasonable amount of time for what they're supposed to do. And so people can see that and say, there's an issue here we need to address. But it's not a subjective evaluation. There's objective data that people can rely on. And really, so our big focus is on, there's some great technology out there, some of which we've seen this week, and there's also lots of different products out there. But really what we want to make sure is that our system is very, very easy to use and very easy to adopt and affordable. So minimal amount of training, very, very inexpensive hardware. I mean, those 20-cent tags, you could have 35 different checkpoints for less than $10 in your house if you really wanted to go sort of over the top. The users, including the families, access the system by an app or a browser if they have a laptop or something like that. And I think that, as Pat Kelly, I think from Routinify said, it's a myth that seniors don't adopt technology. But I think our emphasis is on, we want you to adopt technology that you want to adopt. Like, we've got my mom using FaceTime now, so that she can engage with her grandkids and her kids and all much more easily. We don't want you to have to adopt this technology. We want this technology to help you live independently, safer, and do so in a way that doesn't break the bank and also doesn't cause you stress about, you or your family members stress about, how does this thing work? I don't remember, I haven't used it for a couple of days, so I pressed this button or that button, that type of stuff. We want to take that off the table and really make it affordable, not just for the 1% or 10% or whatever, but for everybody. And maintaining your ability to control your life and then live independently, and to do that safely saves a lot of money, higher quality of life. You maintain control, and it's not a bunch of video cameras or a personal assistant where you might say something. And our experience, my son has one of the electronic personal assistants, and they said they talk about a vacation, like maybe we'll go to, wherever, San Diego or Tijuana or something like that. And all of a sudden they start getting emails about, do you want to go travel here, there, wherever? Don't have to deal with that type of stuff. Complete maintenance, complete control over your privacy as well. So that's our core existing system that we're rolling out right now, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. What we're also working on is some more technology, again, that will work in the background. And in this diagram, those TXs are basically transmitters. They're your Wi-Fi router. So if you have Wi-Fi in your house, you have a little box from Xfinity or whoever you use, and it emits a signal, that Wi-Fi signal through your house. What our technology will do is we put in these little RX receivers, which are little like night lights that you plug into a standard outlet, and they read those signals. And in an empty room, the Wi-Fi signal has a certain pattern. If you put a person in there, that person's presence will disrupt that pattern. And really, we don't care so much about it. I mean, we can look at it and say, well, is there a person? Are there 3 people? There should only be 1. Or there should be 3 and there's only 1. That type of thing, we can see that. But really where we're trying to focus is on, for instance, really interesting behaviors like a fall. So if you get up in the middle of the night and you didn't happen to remember to put on your watch or your pendant or whatever wearable you happen to have, and you fall, or the Wi-Fi signal pattern disruption would be detected, and then we could send a notice to somebody saying, your mom, your dad, your sister, whatever it might be, fell. You should make sure that they're okay, and not wait until, well, somebody will come by at 8 o'clock in the morning, so I just have to lie here and wait. So it happens automatically. Again, you don't have to adopt that technology. It just happens around you, which we think is really important. There's a reference to failure to wash hands. That's much more for skilled nursing homes and assisted living communities, which we're much more focused right now on people who are living independently and want to stay living independently, but we're also looking down the road that will detect, are they washing their hands between, I went in and gave PT, some physical therapy to this person, I'm going to go to the next person. That infection control protocol is really, really important, even before COVID. So are they washing their hands? Did they go to the sink? Were they just sitting there on their phone watching a YouTube video, or did they actually wash their hands while they're there? The other thing that we'll be able to do, and this would have been really important for my mom, is detect changes in behavior patterns and sort of the timing of the behavior, activities levels. So it could be, well, you're not moving around as much as you used to, so maybe there's some issue that needs to be addressed, so that reduction in mobility can be addressed before it gets too significant. But for my dad, he started getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my mom sort of knew that, but she's like, hey, he's just going to get some water or whatever. It's not a big deal. I'll watch a TV show. Actually, what he was doing was going out and driving the car around. And he was not a good driver during the day. So at night, it was really a bad situation, but she didn't realize that. And she also wasn't able, she'd take him to a doctor's appointment, and the doctor would say, well, what are his activity levels? What's he doing? Because agitation and the inability to sleep and getting up in the middle of the night is an indicator, in some cases, of the onset of dementia. And it was for my dad. And my mom would have to sort of say, well, this is what I'm observing. This is what I remember. what we'd like to do, it's not a diagnostic tool. We won't say, oh, you have early onset of dementia or anything like that, but it's objective data that care providers can use to say, well, this is something that a medical doctor or a physical therapist or somebody should look at because there's a change in the behavior patterns, activity levels, the timing of the activity that's relevant for us. Or just, okay, mom is up and about at 8 o'clock. She's usually up at 6 o'clock. Why is she sleeping late? Maybe she's not feeling well. Those types of things, you can start to use that objective data in a beneficial way. And here's a real hard code for me, because when I was practicing, I kept skipping over this short video that I wanted to show. And hopefully you can see the video. And this is Meng, who is an engineer that worked for us. And this is just to show all this data here is the Wi-Fi data, the signal data that's being received by the receivers that we put in her room. And you can see in the middle, it's pretty much of a flat line because she's not moving around. When she starts to move her arms, you can start to see, okay, well, that disrupts the signal. And so the data that the receivers that our technology would capture starts to change. And each type of behavior, each type of action, whether it's waving your arms around, walking around, causes a different type of disruption that our software would say, okay, this is the disruption pattern. Can we match it against, for instance, a fall or somebody washing their hands or, you know, whatever another type of relevant behavior might be. And so that's what we're driving towards with the technology we're working on right now and that we want to roll out in the next year or so. Let's see if I can get rid of this now. Go back to my presentation. And so that's, in a nutshell, hopefully a comprehensible nutshell, that's what SafeAna is all about. We're trying to deploy some technology that's super easy to use, or to adopt, straightforward to use, very affordable, and lets you live in a lesser care, independently or in a lesser care environment for longer, while not putting a bunch of cameras and all kinds of stuff that would invade your privacy. So you maintain control of your life. And as I may have said earlier, we're beta testing our technology right now. And so we'd love to have people who are interested. We have some participants who are who volunteered to participate with us. It's free, we'll supply everything, we'll work with you, but we want to start to get feedback from people saying, yes, what you were thinking is really good over here, but over here it's not quite right. We'd like a slightly different interface or whatever it might be. We want to get that feedback. It's completely free. So we'd love, if you're interested in what we're trying to do, we'd love to talk to you and get you to participate in the program with us. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to just verbally ask or put in the chat? I don't see anything in the moment at the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask Jeff a couple questions. Anyone?
Do you have to be in Colorado to beta test?
No, it's one of the objectives we have is to make this super easy to adopt. And so I think one of the beta test participants we have, the mom is here in Colorado. I think she's in Broomfield or Louisville. I can't remember which one, but her daughter's in the UK. And so part of the reason her daughter can't just swing by and say, how you doing today, mom? So, but she wants to, you know, did mom go for a walk? Did she take her meds? Did she lock the front and back door at night? Those types of things, and get that in real time, but not in a way that, I mean, obviously if she's there, she's not going to be coming here just to get trained on that. So short answer is no, you don't have to be in Colorado.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Anybody else?
And I know some people have asked in prior sessions, you know, is this paid by Medicaid? And we're not there yet. I mean, that's certainly something that, you know, we'll work towards. And if you look and say, that'd be great, but I don't have Wi-Fi or I don't have a phone and that type of stuff, that all we can handle. You know, we'll buy the phone for you. There are grant programs that will provide internet access, Wi-Fi equipment for people who want to participate. So that shouldn't be a barrier for you.
Jeff, I do have a question. In one of the one of our presenters, they're talking about how you can plug this into here and you can put something in the bathroom. So is yours the same type of concept where it is devices around the house that are set around, or can you go into that a smidgen more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on your Wi-Fi signal, on the signal strength. And there might, as you walk around, sometimes, at least in our house, since we have 2 levels, we had to have a booster for downstairs. And so, we might have to do that type of thing. That's very easy to diagnose and install. It's really just kind of plugging it in. And the receivers are just, like I said, they're about the size of a little nightlight, and they go into a standard outlet. And so part of what we're doing is developing tools so that we can just walk around and say, okay, or actually somebody else, depending on sort of their COVID sensitivity, can just walk around and say, here's, the Wi-Fi signal is just not strong enough in this room. Does that matter to you? Do you go into this room ever? If you don't, then we don't worry about it. But if you do, then we'll have to take some remedial action, put a little signal booster in there, and then just put some receivers strategically around the house. But that's all part of the technology that we're developing in sort of in test environments, so we can understand how to do that really easily and have to develop some tools that you don't have to, bring in the Geek Squad or something like that to be able to make it work. Our existing technology, sort of the one with the NFC tags, I mean, what we would do is just send you, say, okay, well, let's talk about your house and how many sort of physical checkpoints that you want to say, front door, back door, refrigerator, medicine cabinet, stove, make sure the stove is off every night or whatever it is. And then we'll just send you those NFC tags that are labeled, and you just walk around. We can do it on FaceTime, or we can have somebody come out if you want it. But it's as easy as putting a Band-Aid on your refrigerator or something like that. So it's really pretty straightforward. I mean, even I can do it, so that's good.
And we've seen you're not technically savvy.
This was a good performance by me. So.
I'm going to ask, David Reed has been in all of our sessions, and I know he's only on the phone this time, but I don't know if he can hear me, but I did want to see if David had any other questions, because he's been a good participant in the past. So David, I don't know if you can hear me. Did you want to ask or have any questions of Jeff? I know he's doing, I think he's driving. So
okay, I just happened to pull up to where I'm going. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so this is great. I have a question and a comment. First of all, a question. So these tags that you're putting around, they don't have to be on the person's body. They just have to be in a room where they are, for example. Is that correct?
That's right. And I think that we'd say you don't put it on somebody's body. It's more, a medicine cabinet or a fridge or a door or a stove or something like, a physical location. Yeah.
So, but I was what I was thinking about, you mentioned somebody being in their bed, and I couldn't see the graph or whatever you showed because I was driving. So just answer this. If they're in their bed and they're not moving, there must be some kind of sensor, like walking into a room, a little radar thing picks up your motion, a motion detector, that's what I should say. Is that involved in this process, motion detector?
No, the technology we're going to deploy would use the Wi-Fi signal, so you don't actually have to buy and install a motion detector. So 2 things. One is the current technology, you would just say, Mom, when you get up, please tap the phone by your bedroom door so that we can see that you're out of bed, that type of thing. Down the road, next year, sorry, the Wi-Fi signal would pick up the fact that your mom is out of bed or not out of bed, because there's not very much motion, or there's motion, but it's consistent with somebody lying in bed versus consistent with somebody walking across the room, getting dressed, or doing something like that. So
they're actually walking through the signal, and somehow it's detected. It's almost like a motion detector, it sounds like.
That's right. But what we really wanted to avoid was having to go out and buy additional hardware that would be more expensive. Motion detectors typically are more expensive. You have to figure out where to put them, calibrate them periodically, and all that. We wanted to stay away from that, assuming that most people either have Wi-Fi, or it's pretty easy to get funding to get the Wi-Fi for this type of system. And that has the ancillary benefit of, okay, now you've got a Wi-Fi signal in your house. And that's useful in and of itself. So we're
Right.
piggybacking on technology that a lot of people have, but if you don't, then there's a benefit to having that. Whereas a motion detector is pretty much, that's all it does.
Okay, so I understand well enough now, and I look forward to seeing how you develop this further. The next comment, and maybe you'd like to respond to this, and anybody else in this session. There's, I recognize here in the United States of America, and some places elsewhere in the world, but mostly in the States, it's all about Apple, 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 and but that's not really true, because there are many people that use Android devices. And for example, you keep mentioning FaceTime, but there's an excellent application from Google called Duo, D-U-O, Duo. It works just like FaceTime, exactly like it. And so a lot of the things that Apple promotes as being one of a kind, we got it, it's other companies have it out there too. And so because a lot of people use Android phones and they're promoted, ARP promotes those kind of devices, Android. And and they're cheaper, they're less expensive for people. So are you looking at making this available to a larger range of platforms?
Well, we actually started with Android, and at some point we may extend it to, at least on the app. Right now it's only available on Androids for that very reason, because of the affordability issue. And so we may make the sort of port the app over to iOS. But for now, most people, if you have an iPhone, then you would use the browser version as opposed to downloading an app. But on an Android device, you could download the app. For that
now
very
I understand.
Reason.
Yeah, now I understand. I was confused because I just heard you mention FaceTime 2 or 3 times. So
no, that was just because my mom's got an iPhone, and we worked with her so that she can use FaceTime because of the particular phone she happens to have.
Yeah, I'm familiar with both platforms. I have a PC and a Mac in my house, iPhones. I mean, I really understand this stuff. So I just am pleased to hear that. I'm pleased whenever I hear a broader, just a broader range of things being offered to people, so that the affordability issue is also addressed. And finally, I'm going to be maybe a little long in this, but have you considered, and are you going to consider, if you've got Wi-Fi signals in a house, and this would go for some of the other outfits that we've heard in these last 3 days, if we've got these signals going on, they ultimately can be hacked into. And so security is also an issue that companies like your own, that was my phone, companies like your own should be considering. Have you taken that into consideration?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that there are 2 different things. One is the security of our system and how we protect the data that we're capturing and data that you provide to us. Then there's, which we can control. Then there's the security of, for instance, the router that you're using, which is emitting the Wi-Fi signal, which is a piece of sort of off-the-shelf hardware that you can go to Best Buy or wherever and get. And those pieces of equipment, we're not a hardware manufacturer, we're not controlling those devices. We can, as part of the program, we can say, look, it's important for you to change the password on your router so that it's not just the one that came with it, which is typically like admin or password or something, pretty straightforward like that. But as far as changing the firmware or putting some software layer on top of that basically operates that router, that's not something that we've taken on. It may be down the road, but it's not something that that I know that there's a lot of pressure on some of the device makers to do something about that. Whether they're going to respond is a separate issue, but that's not something that we have really high on our priority list right now. If we see this is a problem and the data that we're capturing is something that we need to take more steps because people are hacking the Wi-Fi signals, but understand that if you hack into the router, you're not necessarily going to be able to access our system and the data that we're capturing and the data you provide to us. And so I think we're much more focused on how do we protect the data that we're capturing. And if somebody wants to use your Wi-Fi system, by hacking into it, then it might degrade your signal a little bit, but we don't think it's going to compromise the data that we've captured or we're capturing or you're providing to us.
Well, it's good to hear that you're going to be protecting the information, just like people's passwords, phone numbers, medical information. So I'm hearing you say that you're paying attention to that and you want to keep it safe. So that's appreciated. Thank you, Jeff. All of this, you bet. Last comment here is that all of this ultimately, Tanya and everybody else is going to be part of smart homes. All of this will get built into smart homes, and companies like the one we're talking to now and others will benefit if they can get on that bandwagon, because a lot of houses are going to get more and more built with Wi-Fi and with sensors and even cameras and everything. So this is all something I'm interested in, but I'm also pleased to hear that Little Help is really stepping up to be aware of these things too.
I appreciate that comment, and I'm sensitive about getting into Michelle's time too much. So I'll close it out with this, which is the smart homes that are being built. One of the issues they're going to have is, are people going to be able to afford that? How many people are going to move into one of those versus I want to stay in the house that I've lived in for the past 30 years that was built in, whenever. And retrofitting is expensive. Now, Michelle, this is probably a really good segue into Michelle's talk. So I'll leave it at that. But there is a difference between new construction versus I want to stay in the house where I've been for the past 50 years or 20 years or whatever, and retrofitting that, which is more, obviously we want to work with the smart homes, but our focus is more like, no, let's go with what we have in the market, what people are living in now. What can we do there? So with that, I'll be quiet and turn it over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jeff. And I do think that was a perfect segue into Michelle and a physical therapist and what she would be doing in the home that you currently have. So Michelle, it is all you. If you want to, start sharing, you are good to go. Thank you.
All right. Can you all hear me?
We can, Michelle, you're good.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle Miller, and I am a physical therapist. Let me get my slide back to the right place. Can you see my slide?
Yep, it says let's connect, Michelle, safely at home.
Okay, yeah. So how do I move it back? Because that's my last slide. Maybe let's see.
Michelle, try to just use your left arrow key. If there's a left arrow key on the
keyboard. Oh, there it is. Good. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so I've been a physical therapist for over 3 decades. I have experience working with older adults in the skilled nursing facilities, in assisted living, and independent living facilities. A lot of what I did was rehab the older adult that had fallen or had some kind of illness so that they were able to get back to their home safely. So I'm very passionate about keeping the elderly safe longer in their homes. So passionate that I've started my own company, Safely Home. And as you can see, there's a website, safelyhomedenver.com, my phone number, and also my email address. So now we're just going to go into some things about falls. Some quick statistics. 1 in 4 people over the age of 65 fall each year. So as you can see, that's pretty high. 1 in 5 of the falls end up in a serious injury or death. So, and there's over 5,000 older adults that go to the ER each year due to a fall. And because those statistics were so alarming, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, started an initiative called STEADY, Stopping Elderly Accidents, Death, and Injury. And so all of this information is what is on their website, and that's where I got all this information. There's 7 factors that contribute to falls. Lower body weakness, and that includes your core strength and your legs. So for example, an older adult just stands up and their knees buckle and then they fall, or they have pain in their knee or their ankle or something, and that causes them to fall. So it's just really, really important to make sure that your legs and your core are strong. Another contributing factor would be vitamin D deficiency. And this is very common. You need to go to your physician and ask for a blood test for vitamin D levels, and then get on the appropriate supplement for that. If your vitamin D levels are low, then your bones can be less strong, more brittle, if you will. And then you have if you do fall, you have a tendency to break bones. Difficulty with walking and balance. This, along with the lower body weakness, those are all things that physical therapists will work on. Deciding if you're having difficulty with walking, do you need an assistive device? Do you need a cane or a walker? And if you're having issues with balance, what can we do to work on your balance? Another thing that causes falls is becoming lightheaded or dizzy. People will stand up and they feel lightheaded or dizzy, and then they fall. Some of the reasons that they fall or that they feel dizzy is medications. So specifically medications like tranquilizers, antidepressants, and sedatives. So if you're on any of those medicines, you could see if you could get on a lower dose or maybe alleviate those medicines if you are having the lightheadedness, the dizziness. Another cause of lightheadedness is dehydration. So people aren't drinking enough water, and that's a big problem. I see that a lot. The older adults sometimes might have difficulty making it to the bathroom in time, so they would rather not drink. But again, that's just so important to drink water, to stay hydrated, so you don't feel dizzy, so you don't feel lightheaded, and then you don't fall. Another problem is if the older adult maybe can't see as well, and and there's poor lighting in their home, they might have tripped over something or whatever. So those are things that can contribute to falls. Getting up in the middle of the night, a lot of falls occur in the bathroom. So you want to make sure you have a night light in your bathroom so you can see the bathroom. And also, if it's very dark from your bed to the bathroom, maybe have a flashlight at your bedside so that you can clearly see where you're walking. Foot pain is another cause of falls. If you're walking with a limp or, on only part of your foot, that can cause you to become off balance and fall. There's many home hazards that can cause falls. throw rugs that are not firmly attached to the floor, just get rid of them. I can't tell you how many people have had that occur where they just, the rug slipped and they fell and injured themselves. Clutter in the home can cause you to trip and fall. If you have lack of handrails, if you need a handrail to help you get in and out of the shower, on and off the toilet, whatever. So those are the things that cause it. We need to take action. And all these people have figured out, they're very happy because they know you have to keep moving. You just have to move your body. It doesn't matter what you do. There's plenty of options. A stationary bike, aqua aerobics. You can go to the Wash Park Rec Center and they have aqua aerobics there 3 days a week for an hour. It's an awesome class. I've been there. I can vouch for it. Walking, you can walk inside your house, outside your house. You can make a little path in your home and just do it for a certain amount of time. Dancing, yoga, there's chair yoga. Silver Sneakers is a great thing to sign up for. They are in the local rec centers here in Denver, and they have chair yoga classes, Tai Chi classes, and other things, which will help your strength, will help your balance, and also give you that community, sense of community, being with other people. Yeah, so again, it doesn't matter what you do, but you just have to start and you just have to move. It's so important. And if you don't feel like you could do 30 minutes at a time, start with 1 minute. 1 minute of walking, and then increase it to 2 minutes the next day. Whatever works, but you just have to move. Very, 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 very important. So other ideas to take action so that you don't feel, you don't have a fear of falling, so that you continue to keep moving. Speak up. If you do have a fear of falling, if you do feel unsteady on your feet, you need to tell someone, tell a loved one, tell your physician, and then we need to take action. So what is the reason you're not feeling steady? Is your balance off? Do you need to increase your strength? And this is where I can come in and evaluate you and evaluate your home and just see what needs to be done so that you are less fearful of falling and so that you continue to move. You can have your feet and eyes checked yearly. Optometrist, ophthalmologist, they, obviously will check and keep your vision as good as possible. Feet, the older adult have a hard time to clip their nails, so their toenails. So you need to make sure that you get someone to do that for you, get a pedicure, go to a podiatrist. I can't tell you how many older adults I see that their toenails have been overgrown and can dig into their skin and cause pain. So very, very important to do that. So getting the general assessment of your home and assessment of you. So this is where I come in. I will come into your home and give you a comprehensive assessment. I will look at things like your eating habits. A lot of older adults have decreased appetite and they lose weight, and all those things can lead to a slow downslope to falls and injury. I will do a rapid cognitive screening just to see how that is for you. And then I will evaluate your walking and your balance, and then compare your scores to scores of the people, quote unquote, normal with your age range. So we'll get a objective data on I'm high risk of falls, medium risk of falls, low risk of falls, and then we can go from there. I will give you like a detailed list of things that you need to do to your home or that you need to do to be able to be safer in your home longer. So that concludes my talk. Thank you to A Little Help for letting me speak today. And what questions can I answer?
Thank you, Michelle. I don't see anything in the chat at the moment. We'll give it